LFG, let's freaking go. We're back for another off-season episode of The Journeymen, and we're joined by a special guest, Wade Graham. How are you, mate?
I'm great, Latsy. Great to be here. Dragged me off the golf course in the off-season, but I'm happy to help, and we can talk some footy and have a good chat.
Mate, I saw you in the main street of Guy there, VB in hand, coming back from a golf course the other day, I'm assuming.
It was empty.
Empty, yeah. Picked it up off the ground.
I was just throwing it in the rubbish bin. But played a game out at Barton Ridge. Just what I do most days now when I get a bit of time and the kids are at school, I get out there on the golf course. So consider yourself lucky that I took time out of my golf schedule to come on here.
Yeah, nice, man. How many times a week you playing now?
Oh, probably 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah, wow. 18 holes?
What's your handicap, Wado?
It's blown out a bit actually now. I got it down to 4.6 and now it's back up to like the high fives. I went away. I went down to Tassie and played Barn Bugle.
Is that beautiful down there?
It's beautiful down there. Such a good time. But there was a lot of social activities around the golf. So the quality of golf wasn't at its highest. And unfortunately, I haven't been swinging great since I've got back. But
the beer and whiskey down there, man, the food.
It's stronger.
It's good,
No, it was good fun, but it's the first time I've heard about it for such a long time. And if anyone is a golfer listening and they want to play a cool track, Barn Bugle is awesome.
Where's that? Hobart, Launceston?
So it's just about an hour and a half out of Launceston.
Yeah.
And then we stayed at Lost Farms, which has got, it's called Bugle Run, which is a par 3 course.
Yeah.
And then the Lost Farm course, which is 20 holes. And then down the road is called the Dunes, another 18-hole golf course. And it's all magic, and it's everything's sort of on the resort. There's like obviously the hotel. There's a sports bar. The sports bar is pretty old school. Pool table, tab in the corner. Pizzas come out all night. It's a fun time. It's a fun time.
So
That's
definitely a boys' trip.
Wado. Yeah. Obviously, it was a free trip because you started with an absolute beauty of a plug.
No, I paid for this one, but I'm hoping for a return trip, Jimmy.
So definitely a boys' trip though, not a family trip down there.
No, well, you could take the family if you want, but
Yeah.
no, it's just golfers, mate, golfers.
Yeah, and then our mate's made himself known down the camera there, Jimmy Maloney. Mate, you're back at the moment. How was your overseas holiday, bruh?
Yeah, mate, back in beautiful Townsville now. Weather's beautiful again. But it was good. So had, what did we do, 5 nights in Tokyo, which was awesome. We could have spent 2 weeks there and not done everything there, I reckon. Tokyo was unreal, but so big and so much happening. And then we did 2 weeks shooting through the Philippines, which is unreal. Might even be looking into possible little investment opportunity for a little villa or something on one of the islands that we ended up on, Siargao, which is like the surfing capital of the Philippines. So it's on the Pacific side and was a really cool little spot. Then I had a couple of nights in Bali on the way home and, back into it now. So back for a week actually. And then me and the missus shoot off to the Maldives for a week. So
boom, boom.
Yeah. Living the hard life at the moment, mate.
For a guy that's just lost his job and on gardening leave, you're doing it tough.
It's so good. So my wife and Jess are friends, and Kerry Ann follows Jess quite a bit on the social media, and it's a killer for me because I met my wife travelling, and we haven't travelled all that much now. So whenever she sees Jimmy and Jess overseas taking the kids around, it's like, we've got to travel. It's like, she's into me, mate. So maybe tell Jess to just put that stuff on private, just keep it for the family because you're putting me under the pump.
You can block people so they can't see your story. So maybe just give her a tip out to block Wado and his missus so they can't see it, mate.
Mate, Wado's got plenty, mate. He can take her around the world 3 times over.
Mate, I think I jinxed it last week. I said the footballers were well behaved in the off season, and then just like that, Ezra Mam has got himself in some trouble. What do you think of that whole situation?
It's probably as serious as you get in something, your actions with consequences. So, listen, I know, first of all, thank God that no one was seriously hurt and the little girl and her mum's okay. And secondly, there's no doubt that Ezra's probably in a bad place right now with, coming to terms with what he's done and what he's nearly caused, and he's checked himself into the facility as the news said. And I think this is going to take a while to sort itself out because it's as serious as a incident you can have, as a person, not really as just a rugby league player, but as a person making obviously a really poor decision and then putting other people's lives in danger. So, listen, there's a bit to work through. I think it's going to be, he needs to worry more about the legal side of things before footy and getting himself back in the right headspace. But yeah, it's not a great situation, and just thankfully, no one got seriously further hurt.
Yeah, definitely. Jimmy, are you across anything that happened?
Yeah, I've seen bits and pieces of it. Obviously, agree 100% with Wado there that obviously, especially when it involves, when a bad decision by yourself personally involves, innocent people, then that's sort of, a really, really bad thing. And, I suppose, as I said, it'll all take time and everything will sort of work out in good, in due time. But I don't think it'll be a rush thing. I'm sure, the NRL will sit down and they'll have a say over something and what punishments are. So, I think, probably aside of that, I think it probably points to, some of the issues that's going on, obviously, up around the Broncos and the club and the moment. Like, that's not really... They've had a few sort of things going on up there, haven't they? And then obviously results this year, and then they're losing a coach and all that. So there's obviously a bit going on up there. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think, Jimmy, you're right there, because there has been a lot of little things bubbling away. Like, you have to think back, Payne Haas and Adam Reynolds having a wrestle, and all the whispers around the harmony in the group and whether they're really focused on their footy. And then just in the off season, the Barley little incident, and they're all little things that bubble away. But something like this is a very serious thing. And if anything is going to, hopefully be a wake up call for all those young guys up there to say, hang on a minute, we're not all 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Like, there's a bit of responsibility here amongst us as players and as a playing group. Like, that's as serious as it comes. Like, making a decision that, puts other innocent people at risk. And whether Ezra comes back and, however he's dealt with, but for the rest of the playing group, it has to be a moment like this. That is the biggest wake-up call you can have as a teammate and as a friend of Ezra's. It's like, well, that no matter how much you want to defend him as a friend, it was the wrong thing to do, and you almost hurt someone seriously. So it could be the wake-up call that they needed, like a serious thing you never want to happen. But if there was anything that was going to sort of hopefully open their eyes a bit and bring them together and go, hang on a minute, we got more responsibilities to this club and to each other than just going out there and playing 80 minutes of footy each week. Like, they can use this as, a bit of rock bottom and go, right, well, it's only up from here. Yeah,
mate, and you're spot on there. I think off the back of them boys, being so close to win the premiership, they nearly do take rock star status. You know what it's like up in Brisbane with rugby league. And there has been some big lessons for them across the season. Just quickly, and a lot of these boys are younger fellas, but and we've all come through it a similar time back in that 07, 08, 09, and you see the young blokes these days painting their nails and the social media. How do you think we would have went back then to training with our nails painted? Well, taking videos of Hindmarsh, and did you have even Groover back in the day?
Like, I don't know, maybe my mentality's sort of changed a bit. Like, the way I look at it is I wouldn't care, mate. Like, if someone rocked up to training with their nails painted, or, Jimmy had some awful hairstyles over the years, like, it wouldn't really matter to me as long as you're getting out there on the weekend and performing and doing your job. And I think, there's no doubt they underperformed this year, and they were well off the mark that they set themselves the previous year, going so close to winning a grand final. That would tick me off more. Like, not only is there a few little character issues going on, but it's leaking onto the field. It's leaking into our performance, and we're not getting the results. That would annoy me more, mate. If young guys want to go out there and get photos and flashy hair and paint their nails, I've got no issues with that. It's just, but when it comes time to do the business on the field, we need you to come and play your best and help us get results. And like, a lot of those little incidents, like the little things, you can sweep under the rug, and you can just gloss over. And ask young boys, they're learning. It's you can always make up excuses, but this sort of incident like now, there's no excuse for that. And everyone's got to accept that and, learn from it. And they can't have anything like this creeping back in, because, you get the same old story round and round. So Madge has got a big job up there, and, none bigger than his first real decision in what happens in the future of Ezra Mam.
For sure. And he's such a young key player for that football side. He's just signed, a 4-year deal, $1 million a season. Obviously, bad decision, but, for their long-term future, that's something you're going to have to look at. If it was, someone who wasn't as high profile or whatever, would it be handled different? Well, I guess we're going to see.
I think that's a different, something like that, Latsy, is why, it does become a real big call for someone like Madge, because it's what you're setting, as we've just gone through the actual incident, isn't a minor one. It's a very serious one, and it's where, regardless of whether he's one of your top players, whether he's one of your fringe players, it's where you're setting yourself as you come into the club for like a Michael Maguire, who's very hard-nosed, had a lot to do with Madge and know how he sort of sees things, but it's where you're setting your standards and your culture. And obviously all the things that we've talked about and bubbling away is there's been a problem somewhere. Something's fallen away in the Broncos culture and what they consider to be acceptable. They've obviously got a very young squad, so they don't have a whole lot of senior leadership players and things. They've got some guys that play rep footy and all that, but, and I don't know all of them, that well or personally, but there's obviously a lack of senior leadership up there. And it's a big call of where you set your standards of culture and what's acceptable, straight off the bat. And that's obviously a big call that Madge will have to make.
Yeah, for sure, actually, yeah. That is actually, it could be the line in the sand moment for that football club, rightio. We have to cut Ezra and we move forward. Quickly, just talking about Ezra in that position, obviously a fair bit of noise around Ben Hunt in the last week again, obviously coached by one of your former coaches, both you boys and myself. It's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. And I only come across something when I was doing some research earlier, but Honey must have come out and said something about Gutherson coming to play 6. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, I did. I had only read it today, but they were sort of implying that's having an effect on Honey getting pushed out the door.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I just don't know. Like Benny's my age; he's 34 this year. He's already got another year at the Dragons. I don't know how much interest there would be from many clubs out there to sign him on the one, the money that he's on, and two, to extend for. I know he's in the Australian squad at the moment, but to extend him further when if you do get him in there, you're automatically looking for the next guy up anyway, and he's sort of. Passing on the torch or helping develop that next half to come in. So is a club willing to take the gamble, or not take the gamble, like take the experience for a couple of years in the hopes that it can give you a little bit of success and probably get you started in the right direction whilst they bring another young half in. I don't see too many clubs around the comp where he might fit in, and that's where he's got to be careful because it's not like the end for him is closer than the beginning. So this next decision, is a big one, and there always seems to be a little bit of noise about Benny and the Dragons and how he fits in. Now, he came out at the start of the year and the last year, in the start of this year, and was fantastic. But there's no doubt that at the back end of the year, he probably wasn't up to his standard. And always the pressure, Jimmy can tell you, the pressure always comes on you when you're in the halves, particularly when you're the captain. And I think it's probably underrated the effect that not having Kyle Flanagan there with him in those last 4 games when Kyle got suspended, because you form that combination and all of a sudden, Benny's got to do it all on his own and his game suffers from it, but then he cops all the heat. So whether he wants to test the market and try and get an extension, and if there's a club that will fit him in and he fits in that culture, and regardless, it's only going to be a short-term fix for that club anyway because he's got 1, 2, 3 years left max. So it's an interesting situation. But one thing, if you're from the Dragons, you want to nip this sort of in the bud. And
for sure.
All this talk is never great, especially, again, from your captain. Jimmy's talking about the Broncos and their senior players. Like, he is the most senior player at the Dragons. So if there's rumblings around him not being 100% in, your captain and your most experienced player, like how do you expect the other 29 guys to be fully committed and fully dialed in every day coming to training when the noise around your number one player is like that. So, yeah, it's another issue that Flano's got to try and iron out, because the longer it goes on, it festers. If it doesn't get fixed, we've seen this news cycle going for 12 months now. So I don't know where that situation ends up, but I don't think it's a good one for either party.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's going to be interesting watching it play out. And then, looking at a club like the Broncos, say Mam does go out the back door. I can't see Hunty and Reynolds, they're very similar players, unless Honey falls into the 6.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Benny wears a 7, but he plays more like a 6 anyway.
Yeah.
That's why he suffered when Kyle left, because Kyle was sort of on the ball, getting the team around the park. And Benny's he's a player. He gets out there, he recognises when there's space, he knows when he's got a middle forward in front of him, he sees those mismatches and he goes after it. Like, he goes after it himself. It's not necessarily about setting up the guys outside or getting the team around the park. It's about creating opportunities, and that's what a good 6 does. So he could be a 6. He can be a 9. We've seen him off the bench for Queensland playing in the middle. So playing footy is not his issue. He is a footy player, no matter what jersey you put on him. But it's just, again, what club will he fit in?
Yeah.
And is it worth it for that club for a short-term gain when, more than likely in a couple of seasons you're going to need a new half anyway.
Done.
So
yeah, true.
Are you worth?
With all the with the stuff around Honey, like, where's it all coming from? Because as you said, Wado, there's been a lot of chat around when Flano first come in and all these different stuff, and then everything was good, and then it was not good again. Like, are we just is it all being talked about because it's just an absolute rumour-a-thon, or is
slow news day?
Because obviously, if he's got 1 year to go, then he I'm pretty sure he can't even go and talk to anyone until
November 1.
November 1. So it's coming into this thing. So the talk is obviously not from him. Like, he'd have to be let go from the Dragons. So the first question is, are the Dragons going to let him go or not? Before they look at who's going to take him, it's the call's in the Dragons' hand. They got him for another year. And as you said, I think regardless who took him, I think if you were going to move him on, you'd have to pay a fair chunk of what you're paying him. So do you want to pay Ben Hunt,
the other thing too is,
$500,000 to play against you?
Do they have a replacement for him either? Like, they're not going to let him go unless they have a player who can
I've got notes.
step in. He's got notes.
I've got notes.
Who you got, Gutho?
Nah, that was mentioned. In the article it said Tyron Wishart, but he's under contract for another year. He's an ex, obviously, Gerringong Jr.
Well, I think he'd be mad to leave the Storm at the moment. Just when he's found his niche. They're a team, obviously, they're always in and around there, but they seem to be on that uphill trajectory again. And then just off the back of that grand final loss, you have to imagine guys like Harry Grant, Munster, Jerome Hughes, Pappenhausen, they'll be fired up for more. And Nelson missing the grand final, that they'll feel like they probably didn't give the best account of themselves in this year's grand final. And although they'll be disappointed, they'll start the preseason with so much confidence. So if I'm a young player just sort of breaking through, I'm hanging around that squad for as long as I can until I've tasted a little bit of success, and then maybe I'll go chase a starting role or a bit more money. But ultimately, when you're young and you're coming through, you just want to win. And if I was young Wishart, there's more chance of winning in Melbourne at the moment than other clubs.
Yeah, that's great chat, actually. And then Stefano, they picked Stefano up for next year, that young Fa'alongo. So, and just like you say, as a young kid, there's always players missing in that team. So he's getting plenty of footy anyway. And then he sort of comes into the reckoning for that Origin bench spot next year, I reckon, off what he did this year. Obviously, Connor Watson was good, but I reckon he's really suited to that.
Well, he's got
format.
the skill set, doesn't he? Like,
Definitely.
he played in the centres, in the halves. They played him in the middle, I think, in a pinch, and he was fantastic through that back half of the year. A couple of the show and goes. I think he got young Nenai up at the Cowboys off the scrum, or Lukey, one of the back rows from the scrum.
Jimmy was teaching him to defend up there.
Yeah, there's no way he was the defensive coach. There's no way.
How are you finding the airflow in your way, though?
It's hot as I'm sweating. It's so hot in here.
Bit hot in here in the sauna, Jimmy. Me and Wado under the bright lights here. It's fucking cooking.
All good, brother.
Yeah,
all good here.
aircon would be great. Yeah, perfect.
It's on, beautiful. I was starting to see like the sweat beads come up, bro. And I'm like, fuck, I'm starting to get a bit like flustered
Yeah,
as well.
I'm hot as.
All I needed was like Toby's dog to come up and fart next to me, and I would have been under fucking mortuary.
Toby won't be hot. He's on a boat somewhere in Indonesia, isn't he?
Yeah. Sorry, Toby's just let us know.
In Bali.
Sent us some photos from over there, so it looks like he's having a great time.
Wouldn't be the first time I had to cover for him.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, how was he as a teammate?
Covered for me either way.
No, we're rock solid, mate. No, he was good. Toby's a great teammate, to be honest. He's an acquired taste. It took me a while to sort of warm up to Toby because of his, like unique personality,
Yep.
and he owns that personality, and that's him all the time, and that's who he is. And when he first came to the club, it was off the back of we'd won in 16. We had a decent year in 17. Probably didn't go as well as we wanted into the finals, and he signed for 18, and I did my ACL in that semi, and me and him got paired up in rehab together, and we just lost Jimmy. Obviously, Mick had retired a few years ago. Louis had finished up. It was a really different feel around the group. So the guys who had been there for a while are trying to keep it going and keep that same feeling going of what we'd sort of created. And then you get a firecracker like Toby into the mix. It's just something completely different. And I've told this story before. So when we were into the rehab together, it's an ACL rehab. There's no ways around it. There's no shortcuts. It's a long road back, and a lot of time spent in the gym doing your rehab, in the cardio room, just ticking things over. And I got a lot of quality time with Toby, and it took me about a week and a half, I think, and I was stuck with him. And he was just talking shit, and he'd always change the music in the gym and put shit on, and would start going on these random tangents in conversation. I just had no clue what he was about. Didn't really rate him at all. And I go in and see Flano, and I go, mate, these are the two options. You either change my training schedule, like I'll come in earlier, then watch the boys train and then do my weights after, or I don't know, just mix me up so I'm away from Toby, or you can fuck him off. Like, I don't want him here. so I changed. Flano worked it out that I could change my program. So I'd come in early, I'd do my weights, and then when the boys would be on the field, I'd go on the field to watch them. Toby would be in there doing his weights or rehab, and then when the boys would finish and have their break and Toby would have their break, I'd go in and do my work, and then the boys would come in for weights, and he
could avoid him.
He could jump, and then I was just ducking away with him. It took it about 3 months to work out of what I'd done. And he goes, I just thought that you were further ahead of me in my rehab, so you were doing different training. I was like, no, I was doing the exact same training. I was just dodging it. But we've come a long way since then. I really do have a soft spot for Toby. He's got a great heart. And like I said, he's 100% himself.
Yep.
And once you work that out, that it's not a persona or it's not an act, that's actually who he is. He owns it.
Yeah.
That's what he's all about. He became a great teammate. He's a good fellow. He loves a good time. But yeah, he's certainly unique.
Surprised there wasn't more people asking if they could move their training schedule around to avoid Jimmy.
Yeah. Well,
I think he just avoided the gym. He avoided the gym.
Training fun.
I think clubs moved him along. They took the other option.
Oh, any reply to that?
Training fun, mate. That was the beauty of me. I made people smile while they were training.
Yeah, that's debatable. On teammates, Jack Williams, has he signed at Parramatta?
Parramatta, yeah. So Jackie went to Parra. He got a deal over there.
Immediately?
Yeah, straight away. He's finished up this season, and Royce Hunt to the Tigers, and they've been great for the club, particularly through the COVID years when we lost Flano, and then Johnny Morris came in. We lost Johnny and Fitzy came in just through that transition period where we had a lot of young guys coming through, sort of learning the ropes of playing week in, week out of that level where you want to be at. And they were fantastic players for the club and great teammates, great guys. Just Royce sometimes a bit hard to deal with, just in his own world. But
is that in contact at training?
Contact
or just,
at training,
yeah, I could
just
imagine.
Doing his own thing, like listening to the rehab guys, and sometimes he always knew a little bit of a better way. But yeah, they're both great family men. Just real good men, and we're going to be sorry that they're gone, but it's the nature of the beast. They had some decent offers on the table and a bit of security there for their families. So the best of luck for them, and thanks for everything that certainly they did over the time while I was there, and even after I left, they were tremendous for the club.
Yeah, and then pretty decent replacement, obviously coming in Fanua Blake.
Yeah, Fanua Blake, he's going to be fantastic. Again, Dally M prop of the year, so he's a handy pickup, a long-term deal there in the Shire, and a young guy who has been really, really unlucky. that's at the club already, Jesse Colquhoun.
Yep.
He's got so much potential to be a great player. He's just had a really rotten run with injuries. So hopefully, he's coming back from an ACL as well. Hopefully this is his run of luck over and he can get out there and play some, consistent footy, because there's so much confidence and belief around him down at the club. Like, he's going to be a tremendous young player and he's ready to go. He just hasn't. His body's just let him down a bit. So hopefully he can stay on the park and he'll fill that role. I have no doubt that Jackie Williams has, where he comes off the bench in the middle, or he can play on an edge, or he can even start him. I've got a really high opinion of Jesse. So those two guys, they'll fill the spots next year.
Mate, all looking positive down in the Shire. Actually, one of your old drinking buddies is back in the Shire too.
Matty Moylan.
Moylan.
I caught up with him the other night. It's good to have him back. He didn't enjoy overseas probably as much as Jimmy did, but Jimmy loved it.
Is he back for good now, Moyser?
He's done. He got Player of the Year too.
Yeah, I think he got a Members Player of the Year. I think it's at the end of the year and he's sort of in that mode where it's like, I'm back home and relaxed. But let's see in a few more weeks when he's gone around and he's caught up with everyone and he's ready. He's ready to get.
I think when you've been away from everyone and you go back, everyone's so keen to catch up, and you'll catch up with everyone here, there, and everywhere. But then you sort of, once you're back here, you start realising,
nothing's changed.
Same old things, and then it sort of. Yeah, it might change, but yeah, I thought he'd enjoy it over there. I remember talking to him. I caught up with him for a coffee, literally. Well, it was after your wedding, and we came back and caught up with him for a coffee. I reckon it was like a week before, because he told me he might be heading over there, and it was about a week before it all happened, and we were chatting about it. I thought he'd have a good time over there and enjoy it.
No, I don't think he had a bad time. I think he did have a good time and he did enjoy it. I was just highlighting the fact that you probably enjoyed yourself too much over there.
Just brought some of them habits back, drinking after a few schooners.
I'm looking to go back there at some stage, I'm sure.
That's what I was going to ask, man. Like, you've turned into a real nomad, bit wanderlust. Where you reckon you're going to end up next? But back in the south of France.
Back in the south of Penrith.
Definitely back in the south of Penrith.
I'll be back in Sydney, mate. So that's sort of locked in at the moment. We'll be heading back there and exploring a few opportunities at the moment. So I'll know more over the coming months.
Mate, bit of traction on the socials last week. A few people grabbed a hold of Jimmy Maloney as the New South Wales coach. Hey, not bad, Jim.
Jimmy did good now, I think.
As I said, I don't think it's something I couldn't do without a, it'd be about the people you put around you.
Yeah.
And I think obviously now, it doesn't need to be a rocket science, that you don't need to go in and reinvent the wheel. What they did last year, looking from afar, was obviously bang on where they need to be and what they're doing. So, it's just about keeping a good culture and understanding what it means to people and bringing them together. And, I think if you've been in that arena and you know what it's all about and that, then you can definitely do the job.
Mate, last one on play movements. John Bateman obviously left mid-season, went back to Warrington, and now he comes back for 2 more years on his Tigers contract, but I think they're happy for him to leave. Being linked to Manly. What do you two think about that? Obviously, back when he was at Canberra, he was phenomenal. Went over to England. I don't actually know how he went over there, but when he's come back,
well, he was nowhere near. He was over because he came back when I was still over there.
Yeah,
and he was nowhere near the player because he obviously went back to Wigan on massive money. I think he was on huge money.
Yeah.
And didn't think he sort of did what he was doing originally at Canberra. And I think, to be fair, he's been pretty underwhelming at Tigers. Tigers spend a lot of money. I think to hear that Manly are interested when they're talking about, trying to get Tommy Turbo to take a pay cut, to ease salary cap issues. I think, I don't think that'd be the right signing.
I think it all, for me, it comes down to the price. the price, right?
Yeah,
and whether
for
he's
sure.
and the buy-in to the program, to the footy program. Now, Seabold's got to sell him the dream or his path and what direction he wants to take the club in. And if you're going to bring a guy in, especially an experienced guy, you need him to buy into that, and not just buy into it, help drive it, because that's what speaking about the Broncos and their lack of senior players do. That's what senior players do for coaches, is someone you can rely on and someone you can trust to help drive the standards or your vision when you're not around. So it takes the buy, and then again, obviously the price. If the price is right, like experience is invaluable, just with the ability and the understanding of every week's a new week. Every day is a new day. Just because you did it yesterday doesn't mean you don't have to do it today. Just because you played well last week doesn't guarantee you're going to play well this week. You've got to do it all the time, apply yourself all the time. And that's the grind of the NRL. And that's the secret of the young guys coming through that bounce up and down, about learning that graft every week. It's on every week. Everyone you play is as good as you, and they're working as hard as you. So you've got to get after it every week. And that's what experience can bring to teams. Now, if you can get him for the right price and you can get in the buy into the footy program and come across and go, righto, I'm going to help you out in any way I can, well, I think it's a good buy. But again, if he's just looking for a payday and he's just looking to bounce around and play some footy and get through the year, then it's probably something that I'd leave alone.
Yeah, and that's...
Do you reckon, Wado, if obviously, as you said, it's all about price and he's apparently on a fair wicket, like, do you think it'd be unlikely you'd think that Tigers would pay half his contract to play against him?
Depends how much they want him gone.
And then for... How old's John Bateman now?
I think he'd be...
Anyone know?
He'd be
I'll have a look.
Probably 32, I think, maybe.
31. Yeah,
31.
right. So again, he's sort of getting to back end.
It depends about that situation of the Tigers right now. It didn't seem like it was great there, and between him and the club, especially with the fact that he was allowed to go back overseas, and there was rumours that he was getting shopped around while he was overseas. So you never know. The Tigers, they're at a point where they got to get the squad that they want, because another season like they had this year, with the guys like Luai coming across and Taruva, if they're in the same spot again this time next year when we're talking, like the next pressure point comes onto the coach and to Richard on that.
And I reckon that's why when you're talking, about a guy that you need to come in and you're bringing in for leadership. I feel like that's what Tigers bought him for. Like that was their idea with that. There was all this talk when he was at Canberra that he led attitude and taught the guys that, turned up all the time. But I just, obviously if something's fallen foul at Tigers, if that's what he was brought into to do that role and he couldn't do it there, I think it's a bit maybe wishful thinking that if you're Manly that you can bring him in and he'll do the role that they wanted him to do that he couldn't do there, that he'll be able to do it for you.
Yeah, I still think that, and I didn't know he wasn't great over in England when you were there, Jimmy, but I just think the player he could add some value maybe off the bench for that Manly team, because who they got in the back row? Olakawadu and who's the other edge? Ben Trebojevic.
Yeah, Trebojevic. Is it... Waddell, there's another one.
He's gone to Cowboys.
Oh, has he?
Yeah. Carl Lawton's gone to Cowboys.
Well, that's the thing too. If you've already got guys and you're not picking him as your starting guy, then again, a lot of it's going to come down to price, and then that will all be determined by whether, Tigers are prepared to pay a whole heap for him to play against them,
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, mate, they always need something to talk about in the off-season, so there'll be something else next week. Mate, we're on to some yarns. There was meant to be Wado and Toby, but you've already actually told that one.
Yeah.
Toby wasn't here to defend himself. Us three played together, but you and Jimmy spent a couple of seasons together. Any Jimmy Maloney yarns? Mate, I know there's a mad wedding one that you don't want to tell. Remember the trip when he was a pain in the ass on the way to England?
So, yeah, that comes to mind. That's a good one.
Fuck, he was
First
hard
of
work.
all, I'll say, I really enjoyed playing a lot of footy with Jimmy. We got along well off the field. I think we got along well on the field too. It took us probably a little while to combine
we did.
well.
It was like it was just a few teething problems. Obviously, we'd gone Wado being a former half, and then when I sort of got to the club, you know, Wado was playing back row, but he was basically the ball playing half sort of thing on that edge and all that. So there was, you know, we never had any sort of conflict.
No, it wasn't. It just took a while to work.
We were both very, very sort of outspoken in what we wanted and what we thought, and it just took us a little bit just to guide ourselves into where the middle fix was and where the compromise on where we both do what we want to do. I
think one thing that did help, because we did, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, I think we had the same mentality and approach to the game where we always had a healthy respect for the opposition and what they could do, and we did our homework. But we always wanted to go out there and go, well, let's be at our best and let's see what we can throw against them and let them try and stop us. So I think once we got over that, the initial sort of hurdles of the combination, once that combination started to grow, like I had some of my best footy playing outside Jimmy just because of the options he could create for me, and I feel like some of the pressure that I could take off him at times. And yeah, no, he was certainly a fun teammate to play with. Obviously, we had the win in 16, which capped it off. But
how many tackles did you have to make for him?
Nah, I made a couple. He was all right. Jimmy was all right. He just had to get his body in front, and just slow him down a bit, and then I'll come and help you, mate. So he was good. He never jumped out of the way, which is the most important thing.
The Sunday Arvo, the easy game that you know you're going to win at home. He'd miss 10 tackles, but in a big game, he'd absolutely fold the biggest players on the team. He just had that mindset.
They had a couple of big games against Melbourne. Like defensively, they'd send. Who'd we have? They had Kevy Proctor on the edge there. They had Nelson coming off the bench, the Bromwich boys. They'd send some traffic down our way, but he always held his own, stuck his gloves up, and we got them just as many times as they got us. So it was good. But off the back of the grand final, that's the story you're thinking of when we went overseas, the no drinking.
The World Club, the
World
no
Club
drinking, the warning one.
Yeah, that's right. So this is the thing, right?
You were the one sitting with him when I think I come up and he's at the back and he's got fucking red wine all around his mouth.
So the thing was, I was in All-Stars that week, so I didn't get the no drinking warning off Flano.
Yeah.
So I drove home after All-Stars on the Friday night. I didn't get home from Newcastle till maybe, 12, 1 a.m. Then we're up in the morning to go to the airport to go overseas. We're in a business flight. And it was like, it's a day after the game. There's no way I'm not having a beer. And me and Flano always had that good relationship where, I was allowed to sort of enjoy myself as long as, I never missed training, always went out there and played at 100%. So we got to the airport and I remember I got a beer straight away, and I don't know who I was sitting with. It might have been Jimmy or it might have been Louis and Hino. And then I think Louis goes, mate, Flano doesn't want us to drink on this leg over. And I had a sip of the beer. I went, well, Flano didn't tell me, so none of you guys told me. I'm just going to keep going. And then I had a couple of beers before we jumped on the plane. And was it Etihad or Emirates?
Etihad.
Etihad it was.
Etihad.
That one, I think. Yeah.
It had the bar at the back. It had that table. So in business class, you have your food, and a couple of boys had a wine or something. They go to sleep, and then sure enough, the cabin lights go off. I get up. I say I'm going to the bar. So I give Jimmy a tap, and I give I think Hino a tap. Come on, we'll go up the back and play some cards. So we're playing some cards, and we're getting on the beers, and then you come up, and then we're there for about 3 or 4 hours, right? Like we were there for a decent stint, and then all of a sudden we just see Flano come out of the dark,
filthy.
Puts his head around the corner, goes, "What's going on here?" And he was filthy. He was filthy, and it was just another one of those situations. But again, I look back at it now and I was always going to have a beer. It was a day after the game. I just played.
But you don't break your habits, right?
And it was a good trip. The better story for me was when we got to that pub. So that was the reason, right? Because Andrew Gray had that, sleep a certain amount of hours. Like he's a wizard with that performance sort of stuff. And he said, well, if we sleep this first leg, then you stay up this leg. We get in there. We're going to go for dinner. We're going to have a few beers anyway. So don't worry about drinking. Let's get our body clocks in line, and we're going to go for a beer anyway. So that was the whole reason, I think, behind it. But then we sort of blew that up.
Oh, mate, he was in a state. He's fine.
But then we got to the pub. Do you remember the pub?
Yeah, so mate, dark and dingy.
And then so Jimmy was always a hard teammate because he's good on the chirp. But then when you fire anything back to him, he's just so rat's ass. It's hard to get under his skin. It's just like water off a duck's back. So then we get to that pub and we start having a beer. And it's the first time you'd been on a team trip with us. And I think most of the boys knew that you and Jimmy were friends, but we didn't realise how far back and how close of friends you were. And we're at that pub and we're having a few beers and the chirp starts getting going and you start getting into Jimmy and you can tell Jimmy's starting to get a bit rattled from it. And
I remember you said that. No one's ever silenced him.
Yeah, no one's ever silenced him. And it's like at one moment, everyone, like the whole team, all at once realised that you were getting under Jimmy's skin. And it was like there was blood in the water. So everyone just started to attack him and like...
Yeah, I couldn't beat you all. That was the problem. You all jumped on him.
And he'd been drinking for 48 hours.
Didn't matter what I said, it wasn't funny. And then anything Latsy goes, everyone's like, oh.
It was so good.
I was like, stuff yous.
And then did you end up in London too, in the town?
Yeah. Remember we had Damo's
Shep.
card?
And Shep?
Yeah.
We had Damo's card, the old CEO. So we're at the bar, and remember all those rugby players walked in. They played for.
No, that was Manchester.
Oh, that was
Manchester. I think Gow might have got someone on his shoulders.
That was
after we got beat or whatever, and then we went into that bar and.
That's right.
Yeah,
and we in the taxi when Keogh fell over.
What about a funny story? I ran into Keogh when I was back the other day. Caught up with him. He was at
Not in Woolloomooloo, were you?
at lunch and. Talking to him, so he was good. I got his number actually, and I'll catch up with him.
Have you still got his credit card?
Hey,
Have you still got his credit card?
we give that back to him. But the funny thing was, remember he missed his flight.
Yeah, he missed his flight the next morning.
Because we all had to end up with.
He had a shiner.
He was flying out for like a big meeting with Hoyts because he was running Hoyts, and then I come down, woke up like lunchtime or something the next day, come down the foyer and. See Keogh sitting there. I said, aren't you meant to be, weren't you on a flight? He goes, yeah, slept through, let's go get some lunch. And then we all went and got lunch.
That's right, I went and got up to the Chinese place and had all the food. Yeah, it was outstanding. That was a good trip.
That was actually a good trip,
It was a good trip. We played shit footy, but it was a good trip.
And the trip to France and he was farting on the...
I didn't come to France.
Oh, you didn't?
No, because I'd been to France before and I remember looking at the schedule and I knew the day I was going to be hectic. And I was like... I don't know if I can be bothered just to put that much effort just to go down there and
in one day
and get the train back up. And I was with Louis.
Yeah.
So me and Louis were sort of having a chat and we're like, well, let's just go to the casino and play some cards. Like we'll have some lunch and we'll play some poker. So me and Louis, all you guys took off. And me and Louis just went down to the casino in London and just played cards for 5 or 6 hours. And we came back. And I remember we were sitting there and it was like probably 8 or 9 o'clock and all you guys started strolling in. And these are all just broken. Right? It was the longest day in the history of days. And me and Louis just looked.
It was 2 days before the game. Too. You know where you do your like final sesh, then you have your rest day, captain's run. That was our rest day. We were on like the 7 a.m. train out to Paris.
And riding bikes. We were riding bikes, Jimmy, you remember?
Bikes. We've rode the Tour de France around Paris like all day. And then come back at like 9 p.m.
Yeah, everyone was cooked, mate. You could just see us one by one walking in. I remember looking at Louis going, mate, I'm so happy we didn't go.
Yeah.
That looks like absolute torture now, how these boys are feeling. Then you have to get up the next day and train. It was just, leave me out of that. I'm glad I stayed.
Too smart, man. Too smart. Getting to actual footy, there is footy going on at the moment. On the weekend, Australia won 18-0 against the Tongans. Anyone watch that?
I watched the bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
So when I was away actually in Barnbugle. So I was up in the back corner of the sports
you just went on the weekend?
Yeah, it was on the weekend.
Right.
Yeah. I think looking at that game, it probably didn't get to any great heights, the contest in general. There was, Australia were really good defensively and Tonga certainly had I feel like 3 or 4 try savers. So they were fully committed as well. But you could just tell that Australia was really clunky with their attack and their combinations. Now, it's probably part of the course, to be honest. Like Mitch Moses would have never played with Harry Grant. Well, it's his first game since Origin. Since Origin. He's never played with Harry Grant. He's never played with Tommy Dearden. He's played that 1 or 2 games with Dylan Edwards at Origin level. So you could probably expect a few teething issues. And when you see Mal, he's gone with the same team. So he has trust in those blokes and no doubt they'll be better for the run. And the one thing with Mal is when he gives you an opportunity and he puts his trust in you, the way he speaks and the way he carries himself in those Australian camps, like you don't want to let him down. He hits that spot inside where you just go, well, mate, I've got to do anything just to prove to Mal that it was worth picking me in this team and to do the job for him and for the jersey. So I think all the players in that Australian team we'll understand they weren't probably at their best on the weekend, but we'll see a much improved performance this week. And, there's a little bit of pressure on because New Zealand beat them last year, and there's no doubt that this New Zealand team is very under strength as well. So it's a big opportunity for Australia to go out there and, they need to play well and get a good result. But if for some reason there's a ball over and New Zealand can get the jump on them, it's going to be a huge shock and a huge disappointment in that performance, because the expectation, when you have that Australian jersey on, is that you win.
I think, look, it'd have to be a massive shock if they did lose. Looking forward to the game against the Kiwis, it's a little bit inexperienced. They got young Kinney at the back. He's very talented.
He had a great year.
Yeah,
I enjoyed watching him up at the Gold Coast.
Yeah, mate, imagine him running off the back of, you add Tino and then Big Reg in next year too. Yeah. They're going to look a lot more formidable. They got Chance playing in the at 5'8", and Sean's come back from retirement to play in the 7, and then who was the 9? Phoenix Crossland. So it is an experienced team, but that again, when you're in a team like that, it's sort of a free shot at the stumps, right? There's no pressure. You can go out there with that not low expectation. Obviously, they're still playing for the country, so they want to perform well. Yeah.
But they know that if Australia are at their best, they're going to be hard to beat. And Australia know probably in their own heads that if they play as good as they can, they should win.
Yeah.
Now that can be dangerous sometimes in that environment, and the way. I'm saying you can expect a better performance from Australia, but if they go out there in the first 20 minutes and the Kiwis start fast and Australia are still clunky, that doubt does come into your mind as a player, and it's up to Australia and all those boys representing it to, put that best foot forward, because Mao has shown faith in him despite probably not being at their best last week. And again, there's that expectation with Mao in camp that when you have that jersey on, you do the jersey justice. So it's a big week for the Australian boys.
Yeah, for sure.
I think with that, it's only natural, but in these tournaments that, over each game you do progress. Like I think even when you're talking about back when, the Aussie team had your Thurston, your Smith, your Cronk, all that together that played together, and that when you're around it they still developed. The side still developed and got better throughout any competition. It was the first couple was, okay, we're a bit clunky, we're going, but we're working towards it. And I don't think there's much chance. As you said, Wade, like the probably the possible way that they lose is they start falling into this trap of, they are under strength. Geez, we should be beating them. But I just think there'd be way too much awareness of what happened last time, and obviously them suffering like the biggest defeat ever on an Australian side. And I'm sure going into this series there was that was all addressed and what's there. So I just can't see how you could ever sort of have that sort of idea or mindset when you're playing at the highest level for your country, but especially after what's happened in their last thing. I just think Australia will develop, they'll click more and more. As I said, some guys, especially that first game, because you're picking players that, they didn't all just finish. So you've either got guys that are, might have not, even if they didn't make semis and they're coming out of a side like that, they haven't played a game of footy in a month.
Yeah,
and all that. It doesn't take long. The first one's a bit clunky, a bit yuck, blow out some cobwebs fitness-wise, and then they'll hit the ground run, and it'll all just start coming together. And I think you'll see their performances just improve every week.
Mate, I think the Kiwis are the ones who actually get better every time they're in camp. They always seem to lose their first game, and then you get them in the final and they knock you off. But
the other game, but we're going to talk about the Kummels
for sure.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
Yeah.
So we did a bit of work with Jason Dimitro this year at Triple M, and he was really excited about the potential that the Kummel team had and the players that he knew of, and then since getting the job and diving deeper into it, the pool of talent that he had and the sort of the team that he could pull together. And I remember talking to him and him being really optimistic about their chances and where he envisioned that team going. So it was a fantastic start by them. They were really good, and it was an upset, right, on the books. But I think they showed that they could be a bit of bit of a force around those tier 2 teams because they're in tier 3 at the moment, and the winner of that pool comes up to tier 2. Is that right?
I'm not even sure. Is
right.
England and Samoa classified as tier 2 at the moment? Is that how that is? Because they're going to play over there in England.
No, I'm not too sure how the ranking is, but I'm sure that. So Tonga's up now in tier 1.
Yeah.
And then so Fiji, the Kumals, well, maybe they come up in the tier 1 after.
Yeah, okay.
It might be tier 1. I'm sure when they announced the Pacific tournament that if you win that second pool, the prize on offer is to go up.
Yeah, okay.
So
is that a prize when you go and get a play against
well, that's
the
where you want to be.
for sure. For them boys,
Well,
testing themselves.
if you're going to develop, I think that's where, and there's probably an opportunity for a country like Papua New Guinea where rugby league is just absolutely bonkers and they're all for it. And then there's talk about, possibly a PNG side coming into the NRL and all that. I think if you're looking at it, that's where there's scope to be. If, you look at where the Kumals have come and now they're in the Q Cup and stuff like that, but they haven't really had any sort of systems put in place, So any kids that come out of Papua New Guinea, that become NRL players and that, they haven't had any sort of pathway, any official development sort of put into them. And we still see a few kids that have come on and had awesome NRL careers. So I think as more structure and more funding and all that sort of stuff goes into the country, I think it's only a matter of time before they just grow and grow and grow, because it is their national sport. They're absolute rock stars, footballers over there. And as I said, you go and all these guys come through on pure ability, just pure raw ability. They're all hard as nails. And, as soon as some more development, more structure comes in, picking these kids at younger age, teaching them the technical things around football like that. There's only sort of one way PNG can keep going, I think.
Yeah, no, you're spot on the money there, Jimmy. Looking forward to this game. So that score ended up 22-10, but Viliami Kikau did throw, I don't know if you saw the highlights, two offload intercepts. So I'm picking he'll have a huge game against the Cook Islands this week. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be Brad Takarangi. See, Tackers is playing for the Cook Islands.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Taka's 43 now.
Yeah. I think he played for one of the teams out in Group 7 this year. So
he thinks he's still playing, but yeah, it's going to be a tough ask to come up against big Billy Kikau after the game that he had. Like, he was still damaging and at his best, but just a couple of decisions that he made there with the intercepts going the other way, they hurt personally. So
yeah,
you don't want to wake up the beast sometimes. And, it could be a bit of a big afternoon. Yeah, a big afternoon for that. Whatever.
I reckon a lot of that. When you used to play PNG, because
they do different things.
They were the one side. So when you're in normal habits, like especially as a half and that, where you're used to playing against set defensive lines and things like that, it was an absolute lottery because you didn't know what anyone was going to do.
People pop up where they're not supposed to be.
You've either been hit and you're levelled on the floor.
Out there, and then your biggest thing was try not to get someone killed by throwing a ball to let them just get absolutely folded.
I remember, I don't know if it was you or another half I played, we were doing scrimmage against the under-20s, and we went down there, our edge, and I'd say it was Jimmy because of the story sounds good. He throws an intercept, and then I'm sort of into him, going, Jimmy, what are you doing, mate? Like, just play short. He goes, nah, don't worry about it. The guy won't be there on the weekend anyway. This kid doesn't know what he's doing. He's trying to tell the kid he was in the wrong defensive position.
Even though he's got an intercept.
Yeah. Don't worry, he won't be doing that on the weekend anyway.
That's such a Maloney thing to do, right?
He was off his head, that young kid.
Billy Magulius? Was it Magulius?
Nah, he would have had a chip and chase on the back of it.
Mate, 100% flick offload. All right, so your tips for the weekend, boys. The Kiwis or the Aussies?
Aussies.
Yeah.
Aussies for me.
Malones?
Yeah, Aussies, and I think they'll be better. They could be quite comfortable, I'd say. I reckon they'll have a bit of fire in the belly. It's the first time they've met since them getting beaten, knocked over last year. So I reckon they could be in for a good performance, Australia.
Yeah, and then the Cook Islands or the Fijians?
Well, after that Billy Kickass Bill. I think I'm going to have to go with Fiji.
Brave man.
Particularly if big tackers.
Islands?
I had a look there earlier.
Carlisle's playing in the centres.
Yeah.
Obviously, Tackers is playing. That's a bit of news. I seen him the other day at Woolworths eating ice cream. I think he's getting ready to play.
Hero's not named.
He's not in.
Will be out there looking for some highlights. I don't reckon he'll be ready to grind.
He'll be looking for the offload for sure. Tedavano, Mawali, they've got a good forward pack. Tepai Maria, Ruben Porter. I think he played a few games.
Where's Tedavano playing now? Is he?
I think he's
finished. He's finished. He retired.
I was going to say.
He'll be in that nines comp, Jimmy.
There's a few old guys, obviously. Like there's a few guys that are past, but yeah, you'd have to think. As I said, I hadn't seen the Cook Island side, but you'd have to think Fiji should win pretty comfortably.
Yeah, Jenko's back in the Fijian team. But no, it looks like I'm going to go Fiji comfortably. Mate, Jimmy Maloney, thank you for joining, mate, especially after all your off-season escapades. What's on for the weekend?
Nah, not a lot. I'll have to take the kids down at some point, back down to Sydney, drop them at Mum's place because me and the missus are off to the Maldives without the children. So, that'll be a good week.
That's a good intro for the wedding story.
We'll save that. And then, Wado, thanks for taking time out of your day, mate. I know you could be down the golf course. Great. Would you want to be on? Do you like being on the course when it's this hot?
Love it, man. Love it.
30 degrees?
Yeah, easy.
Bro, that's uncomfortable.
Oh, you'd have to have beers on the course.
Yeah, well, that's true. On a Wednesday, on a school night?
Yeah, every day, mate.
Yeah, beautiful.
Retired.
But, thanks, boys, and thanks to everyone who's watching and listening. See you next week.